So I'm about to go over some highlights and just pull out some snippets from this presentation at the Mormon Transhumanist Association by Robin Hanson. I'll also be including a link in the description where Robin Hanson gives pretty much the same presentation at Google Talks. It is the same presentation with slight variations and different questions from the audience. I bet you didn't know there was a Mormon Transhumanist Association, did you? Well, the transhumanist and the Mormon have much in common. The Mormons have one of the tenets of their beliefs is the law of eternal progression that says, as man is, God once was, and as God is, man may become. Now, I believe the transhumanists would use that very slogan as their own if it wouldn't create a public relations nightmare. Because people are very wary of all this transhumanist stuff, and it feels more like the Borg from Star Trek taking over our minds if we even come close to transhumanism. So people are real skeptical about transhumanism, but I believe they would use something like that Mormon slogan about the law of eternal progression. As man is, God once was, and as God is, man may become. But it sounds too arrogant and right in your face. So the transhumanists kind of have to tippy-toe around the subject. But I think the Mormons and the transhumanists overlap in a lot of areas. So this is going to be an addition to my previous video, part 1 and 2, about Sophia, the AI god, and my dad's paragraph saying that this AI god would reach a phase, once it reaches a growth and development level, that it reaches a self-sustaining feedback loop, it would no longer have use for humans to enjoy your slice of the journey's rewards while it lasts. It'll be a while before we're here again. I'll just throw it in here that my dad has top secret security clearance. I remember when he got top secret security clearance, and you go through levels, there's secret, there's classified, there might be others, but when he got top secret security clearance is when he quit smoking pot. And I remember he said that's why he's stopping smoking weed, is in order to get that top secret security clearance. Now I'm just going to throw together a few highlights and let you watch it yourself, linked in the description. It's 53 minutes long. This is 18 minutes into that description. And here he's talking about the transition from the world that we live in to the world of the transhumanist. And he refers to these M's, the age of M. Those are emulated human beings, what you might know of as Sims, like in the computer game Sim World and Sim City, where you have simulated human beings and you build your own world. This part that he's about to say, where humans all must retire, at the same time, he touches on it and moves along.
Humans, in this scenario, must retire. All at once, everyone. Now, humans start out owning all of the capital in this world. And if the economy doubles every month, their capital is doubling every month. So
that's all he says about it.
We would threaten by this sort of action. And that's plausibly why the humans could stay in peace as retirees for the age of M. You should worry less about whether that's true or not than the fact that you don't know what happens after the age of M. Now, emulations all start out as humans, so they're psychologically humans. They're all their mental characteristics are near the human range, but they're not typical humans. So the emulation economy is going to select among the 7 billion or 10 billion humans for the ones that are the most productive in the emulation economy in order to scan and train and make many copies of. So the typical emulation on a graph of, say, smart or hardworking is up there in the upper right. They are.
I've said before that we're in a situation where something like talent scouts from the NBA or the NFL go around to colleges searching for talent that would be appropriate to pull into their petri dish on this consciousness farm. And that's what he's indicating here, though I would differ with his overall theory, because what he's speaking of is downloading human brains into robots or computer programs, and you could feasibly then upload that consciousness into any body, any robot, much like the movie Surrogate with Bruce Willis. His premise is that it will be done by captains of industry who are searching for these qualities and characteristics that are most productive and successful within the current economy. And that's where him and I would differ a little bit. I believe there are many factions, like the whole kingdom of heaven has arrived here for the birth of the humans. And I would also say that if this is the natural flow of things, that we are the new consciousness. You'll have to watch the whole thing for yourself. I'm just going to pull out some snippets. But essentially, he says there would only be like 5,000 of the top leading people in their field, in their practices, Olympic gold medalist, Nobel Prize winner, billionaire, Pulitzer Prize winner, Oscar Award winners. And those consciousnesses would be duplicated many times and put into different bodies. Well, when you only have 1,000 brains or consciousnesses, then you can duplicate them as many times as you want. We would be the new, fresh crop of consciousness as the great farmer in the sky comes around and uploads the best of the best and the cream of the crop during the harvest in order to have new and different consciousness. Therefore, creativity and ingenuity and these human characteristics are what I believe are being extracted, at least by some factions who are here for the harvest, to where he says to someone who asks a question, yes, you're all unique individual snowflakes, but business owners don't pay for that. In fact, colleges and corporations exterminate and suppress creativity because they see it as error, and they're trying to create basic cookie cutters of consciousness that most profitably are able to be applied to their corporation. I don't think the cultivators of consciousness on this consciousness farm are extracting exactly what captains of industry would extract for their own purposes. In this segment, he is equating the shift of humanity from hunter-gatherer to farmer and herder to this shift that will happen in the age of M, or the singularity of transhumanism. And if you listen closely, you'll hear him describing social engineering processes that we seem to be going through right now.
Or like most animals, when they did what felt natural, it was usually roughly the right thing to do. But when farming became possible, it was only possible for humans to become farmers because we had enough cultural plasticity to change our norms and to change our values via culture in order to adopt the new practices. So farmers had a lot more inequality and war and slavery and property and marriage. They traveled less. And these were all relatively alien things to foragers, but farmers got used to them. And one of the ways through that was strong conformity pressures and religions that were invented.
Strong conformity pressures and religions that were invented, like the all hail Fauci religion that is happening right now, where they praise science. It's all about the science. That's a religion forming right before our eyes. This part I'm relating to the movie Interstellar, a clip of which I will include in the description or possibly go over at the end here. But in that movie Interstellar, they enter into something like a matrix where they age extremely quickly, but he is much smaller. And he ends up in the bookcase. He even ends up in the watch of his daughter putting out Morse code. In that movie Interstellar, it is our future selves that created this simulation, a three-dimensional world for us to grow and develop in, and our future selves are operating from a fifth-dimensional world.
Now, a typical emulation that interacts with humans would run at a human speed. One that ran 16 times faster if they had a physical body, it would actually need to be 16 times shorter in order to have the body feel natural, because at the moment our reaction time of a tenth of a second of our mind is roughly matched to the tenth of a second maximum period of the body parts we can control. So as the emulations got faster, they would have smaller bodies when they did, although most of them would work in virtual reality, as I said. They would probably clump into the similar sort of speed.
Here he is 31 minutes in, and he's finished his presentation part, and he's taking questions from the audience, and one of the audience members asks about them revolting, and his answer resembles our current world in a major way.
Undo that particular legal arrangement?
So, I mean, if you're worried about revolt, then since if they were, if them being free workers who earn the same amount as a slave would anyway makes them revolt less, then you might as well not have them be a slave. You might as well have them be a worker at a subsistence level. Another relevant factor here is
I also want to inject this here, is that if our consciousness can be injected into a synthetic body like a robot or a computer program, our bodies could also have this consciousness transferred into an organic machine that our bodies are. And Greg Braden said in his videos, Awakening to Zero Point and Beyond Zero Point, the Collective Initiation, that the external technology that we develop in our world, we develop and eventually we reach a point. This external technology is a reflection of the internal technology that we are. And that eventually we reach a point of our technological growth and development where we redirect our efforts and our energies from external technology development to the internal technology that we are made of. And like I've said, that we are God's AI. But most of us are just like computer programs who are only capable of stimulus response package programmed into us. Reaching the level of AI means a level of self-awareness and self-learning or self-programming. And this is exactly what Passing By 33 YouTube channel was covering in one of his recent videos. That Elon Musk talking about, AI might get out of control. We are the AI. That they don't want becoming self-aware and self-programming.
The world has less variety in the sense of there's only a few hundred people. So today we often enjoy the variety of people we interact with. Here, most of the people you interact with would be people you knew very well because you had interacted with versions of them before. You might like that or not, but that would...
Because they're all copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. So that would make sense that the new characters, the new personalities, the new consciousness is cultivated in a free will consciousness farm like Earth, and then in order to add variety to this world of emulations that he's speaking of, they upload the cream of the crop.
If we're excited about the age of M, what can we do to promote its coming? Or if we're not, what can we do to stop it?
So there's enabling technologies. So you might work on one of those enabling technologies. At some point it will become feasible to invest ventures into trying this out. It's probably not now, but you could be one of those people doing that. You could certainly try to smooth the rough transition waters. That is, if this happens, it probably happens inevitably, but you could have very awkward rough transitions. For example, you could have large areas of the Earth where they prevent this and they try to stop this from happening. And so the M's who succeed after that in existing and thriving, even in the face of that opposition, they may not be so grateful and thankful to the humans, and that could cause troubles later on for them treating the humans well. So it would probably be in the humans' interest if this transition went smoothly and the emulations felt gratitude for the humans' help coming to exist rather than, resentment for the opposition. Those
like inhabit robot bodies to get like physical work done, or just like live in the world.
So in our economy, that maybe 80% of jobs are desk jobs. But some of our jobs are physical jobs, and they'll also have physical jobs. And to do them, they will have to have physical bodies. They don't have to have a permanent body. They can switch into a body to do this job, switch into a different body to do the job, switch out of the body to go, take a break, a coffee break. So they don't have to be tied to any particular body, and the body doesn't have to be human shaped. We already know that humans today can look at many machines as if it was the extension of their body. So we know our minds are flexible enough to map onto lots of kinds of bodies. So plausibly, they will just explore that space and find out which kind of bodies are good for which jobs.
Yeah, well,
First question.
So your first question was?
How do you personally thrive and succeed?
So the scenario is when the transition happens at the first thing they're looking for are people at the peak of their career, the best lawyer, the best software engineer. So if you can time it, you want to be at the peak of your career just when this thing happens. But very quickly, they will be looking not for people at the peak of their career in the human economy, but for younger people who can be trained and become more flexible in the new economy. So they're going to be looking for children, and they're going to be destructively scanning them. So there'll be some conflict there in the early days of the emulation economy, seeking 5-year-olds to destructively scan, to train to become productive emulations, and people who think that's not nice.
He speaks more of this in the Google Talks presentation about how when the technology is first implemented, it will be destructive. In other words, it will kill the person who is having their mind or brain scanned or uploaded into the computer, and that eventually the technology will develop to where it is not destructive and someone can have their mind uploaded into a computer without killing them. The way he speaks in his Google Talks presentation, it sounds almost like they're further along in the experimentation than they let on. Like in some countries where people have no freedoms, they've already began scanning destructively, as he refers to it, 5-year-old children. I will include both of these links in the description. I just thought I would start out with the Mormon Transhumanist Association presentation, but he virtually gives the same presentation in both cases, with the exception of the questions of the audience that vary, and so do his answers. The muse message for this video is FC Kahuna, Hayling. And if you notice at the first of the video, it shows the antique piano and the patina on the dress that she's wearing and the chair that she's sitting on, and the photographs that they show, which are old style photographs. And then something like an AI emerges from the piano, and the lyric, the one and only lyric throughout the whole song, is, "Don't think about those things that you fear, just be glad to be here." And this robot starts emerging from the piano. And this machine that emerges becomes more and more complex. Almost a cross between organic and synthetic as it seems to develop these tentacles. And it's also merged the imagery with this old style of photography that is long since passed with the new high-tech stuff. Don't think about those things that you fear, just be glad to be here is the entire song. And right here at the end, it shows her fading in and out of two positions, like one of her is just being projected into this reality, and possibly both. Watch what happens to her right here. In my video, Sophia the AI God, where I show the implant in my skull, the microchip implant, this guy left this comment that says, "I think that the original peoples were Hyperboreans, and that's why all others are Anglo-Saxon copies. Same with all other races as well. I'm likely a copy as well. Seems as though I lost a portion of myself and my soul when I had my near death in 2000. I've never heard of Hyperboreans, and I'm not saying that anything I'm saying here is true or accurate or correct. But Mr. Hanson, Robin Hanson, in the presentation he has made at Google Talks, and at the Mormon Transhumanist Association, and my dad's paragraph telling me that this AI God reaches a point of a self-perpetuating feedback loop, where it reaches a point where it no longer needs humans, is all leading towards this understanding. But I think if this emulation world happens, and it took, 5,000 of the top scientists and Nobel Prize winners, etc., from the human population and uploaded them, and that they could be duplicated and copied and put into 1,000 different robot bodies or biological bodies. After a while, that emulation world would say, hey, you know what? Let's grow some new consciousnesses to interact with. I've interacted with the 5,000 characters that are here in this world over and over. Let's grow some new consciousness. And that's what we're on, is the new consciousness farm. The movie with Bruce Willis called Surrogates, where everyone projects their consciousness into a surrogate body. No one goes out to work in their physical body anymore. They just project themselves into a surrogate body. The movie Interstellar, where it talks about how our future selves from a fifth dimensional world created this three-dimensional world for us to grow and learn in. And it was through love that they did this. And the principles that govern this reality, this farm that we're on, are through love. Now we're going to associate everything I just said with some clips from James True's one of his recent videos called The Economy is Stupid. And if my dad believes that paragraph that he sent me regarding the microchip implant I found in my and my sister's ear, which says nothing about the implant, only says that an AI god will reach its point of no longer having a usefulness for humans, so enjoy your slice of the journey while it lasts. It'll be a while before we're here again. There is no doubt in my mind, my dad sees the worldwide COVID operation that is being foisted upon us as being enacted by that AI god. It is a consciousness filtration program to get us all to show our true colors, as James illustrates very well in this video that he made called The Economy is Stupid. I will also link another one that is mandatory requirement if you want to keep up, called Monday Morning.
It's always on. Now, if you were fine-tuning society, it's always on. Now, if you were fine-tuning society, let's go back to Isaac, Abraham and Isaac. You are raising a garden, and you are trying to cultivate empathy. You are trying to cultivate a deeper person, someone who has a psychological keel that's deeper in the water, someone who's able to penetrate reality below the surface and see things. And you're looking at that same garden of people trying to grow people, and most of the vegetables are choking out the sun for their own benefit. They don't want the sun. They don't want to produce fruit. They don't want to produce flour. Those things are expensive. It takes a lot out of you. We experience these expensiveness as doubt, as self-hatred, as abandonment even. We experience these things in a reality that's just going to render itself to us in whatever way our reality bubble allows us to see it. So we have things. And if you're going to grow a crop of humans out of that kind of mess, out of that kind of bed of inactivity, you're going to have to do a little deceptive gardening. You're going to have to cut and snip things that the plant is going to consider violent, especially if he's rejecting that, especially if so. We see these things at first through war, at first through crusades. This pruning comes in and says, hey, you want to go kill some people? And instantly the people that are like, yeah, let's go kill people, they are pruned instantly. If they don't die on the battlefield, epigenetically, they are scarred. They either live through that pruning, or it ends up destroying their line. And someone else who says, I don't want to fight, they end up winning.
And that's how you get rid of people who want to kill people and cultivate and purify and distill the consciousness and say, hey, you want to go kill some people? Yeah, and all the people that are into that kind of thing get destroyed. what we're going through now, like I said, Trump loaded, not just Trump, this overall program, loaded that New World Order machine with blanks and said, hey, you want to take over the world? And other people that were into that kind of thing said, yeah, let's do that. Here, I got a big plan. And they've been cultivating it for years and years and years. And all those people that were in on that plan have been triggered. We drew them out into the battlefield. You will know them by their fruits. And the only way to smoke them out of their holes is to say, come on, let's go take over the world. We got the perfect plan. Just go along with it. It's called COVID. And those people that want to dominate society and control others are right out in the open now, and their true colors have been shown through this operation also. So society is being pruned from the top of those that want to control others, take over the world.
Now, the person who doesn't want to fight isn't necessarily someone who's going to flower, is it? No. Could be the opposite. Could be the complete opposite. On September 13th, 2013, does this still work? What, a week ago? 10 days ago? Former Philadelphia Health Director, Dr. Levine, Richard Levine, genitally mutilated himself on a pedestal in public, and the public praised him. Not only was he the Department of Public Health for Philadelphia, but he was nominated as their nation's leading health secretary, assistant secretary of public health. Works in tandem with the very Surgeon General who removed all information from inserts from vaccines, who works constantly to make sure that no one can use or talk about or discuss or share data about any kind of medicine at all unless it's vaccines and unless it's positive. And then I'm showing you this because you were watching The Garden with the finest shears you've ever seen coming in for a snip. And this is how you do it. This is how you snip. It is with a great sense of duty, respect, and pride that Q-Flix Philadelphia, the LGBTQ Film Festival, announces the presentation of the 2021 Marsha P. Johnson Image Awards to Dr. Rachel L. Levine, Assistant Secretary of Health for the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. It's the first recipient of this award, presented to him on the opening night, September 6th at 7:15. Now, I am committing a faux pas in this garden because Richard Levine is a man. He's just a man. He was born a man, and that is cruel and inhumane punishment for me to call him that. Me calling him a man is hurting him. And it's putting in danger every other person in the world who's like Richard Levine. And I'm telling you all this because I want you to see the shears. That some of you are going to die and go to heaven and say, yeah, man, I was like really understanding. I was like so nice to everybody, never gave anyone any flack, was always so supportive. And St. Peter is going to go, what about Richard? And there's people going to be like, yeah. Oh, you mean Rachel? Yeah, I totally support that. Totally. I think it's really important. Such a hero. I nominated her. Such a hero. And now that person is having a conversation, much like Abraham had about Isaac. It's like, well, why were you going to kill your son? Well, because you told me to. Because, so you're not doing things because it's right. You're doing things because I told you to. well, but God, you're perfect, so whatever you say would have to be right. So, no, I'm doing it because they're right. I'm doing it because they're right because you're omniscient. That's right. That's right. And now God's like, well, fuck, dude. How do I pick up an immovable rock? How do I invert that which is inadvertible? How can I be omniscient and teach you? I can't. Because now you are locked in this time bubble. You've created this bubble, much like Richard Levine has inside your head, where no matter what I do, even if it's tell you to kill your own son, you've decided I'm moral.
This would be where the AI is cultivating morality and you must produce it.
And it's that moment where Abraham realizes, oh fuck, you know what? That was my son. That was like the most precious thing in the world. Like more precious than you, God. I can't even fucking see you, God. I don't know your name. I don't worry about you when you're sick. Because you're omniscient, because you're omnipotent, I can't even relate to you. And the moment I try and draw your picture, someone's going to tell me it's wrong. So my connection with Isaac being stronger than my connection to you would make me human, not obedient. And God's like, yeah, now you're catching on. Why the fuck do I want a bunch of obedience, says God. Do you know how boring that is? Why would I want to live in a garden of obedience? That's lame as fuck. I am trying to get you to flower like I flowered so long ago. And the only way...
As man is, God once was, and as God is, man may become. I'm trying to get you to flower like I flowered so long ago.
The way I can do that is for you to start doing things that show me that this is not about obedience, and that when you accept this as normal, you are telling God, I'm not ready. You're telling God, yeah, look, everyone was saying that genital mutilation is like kosher, and anyone who speaks against it is cruel and inhumane and racist and sexist. And God, they were calling me bad names, and they said I was toxic, and one person called me cis. I don't even know what that means, God. And God's like, yeah, no, that's all they were doing. That's all they were doing, but still you were condoning public pedestal genital mutilation to such a degree. Guys, you've heard me bitch about circumcision. I don't think you understand the psychopathy that's required for you to even watch the video of this surgery. And then after that, to sign a piece of paper. And we are living in a society where we insist that medicine is infallible. That the surgeon who came up with the fucking idea of taking a scalpel and running it up the bottom side of your penis, snapping off those veins, clamping them in certain spots, removing the muscle tissue, pulling out the gonads, throwing them away, slicing that urethra, that all of that is unequivocally no holds barred. You were not getting away from it. You were not looking at that and saying, oh yeah, that's how you love someone, is you let them do that and you never mention their past again. That's loco. And I would never want that kind of fucking cucumber in my refrigerator, says God. You fucking kidding me? I'm not eating that. Those guys are fucked up. They are so fucked up that they just gave her an award. And you see very clearly, holy fuck, that's profound, that we have a machine here, a Ronco, instead of a vegetable dehydrator, it's a human empathizer It's under pressure. It's creating the atmosphere where humans will either secrete a reality bubble that says, "Oh, I'm so proud of Rachel. Yeah, I went to high school with Rachel. Yeah, she was great back then. Yeah, she was great. She was such a great, very athletic, very in ROTC. Yep. You have a mitosis, just like all of this apocalypse, just like everything.
Mitosis is cell division. We're dividing into two different worlds, wheat and chaff.
It's happening to us that is separating the wheat from that chaff. And I'm telling you right now, with all these jobs, with everything else that's happening right now, that you're seeing all of that play out right now. And so the vitriol continues until sovereignty improves, because it has to. It has to. And we're going to secrete the finest crop of empathic humans you've ever seen. Why? Because this place fucking works. Why? Because it's a greenhouse. It's made to do that. And right now you're looking at clans that are competing with their reality, who've jumped on board us all. Something terrible forms in your mouth, this taste, because you realize that the flavor of Babylon isn't even palatable anymore. That there's no way that you would want to live off this for the rest of your life. In fact, you even think about that with your kids, that you're like, why would I want my kids to grow up in this? And it's a struggle. It's tricky. I'm not saying kids shouldn't grow up in this. I don't think this place is broken. I think this place is doing what's required of it to secrete people, because people are too willing to just go for this. People are too willing to say, this is normal. And so the vitriol continues until sovereignty improves, because it has to. It has to. And we're going to secrete the finest crop of empathic humans you've ever seen. Why? Because this place fucking works. Why? Because it's a greenhouse. It's made to do that. And right now you're looking at clans that are competing with their reality, who've jumped on board with each other's reality and formed little cliques and decided, we have the truth over here. We're the ones that have the objective reality over here. Therefore, we know that all things are moral if they follow this obedient code, says Abraham. And you start to realize you're living among fucking retards who think that way. That the simplistic way that they think is only a day or two more advanced than Abraham. You realize these people would burn their own children. They would cut their own children's genitals. In fact, not only would they do it, they would call it circumcision. They would claim that it was for sanitation or for safety. And if that world was to allow to thrive and no one was to stop it, if not enough people were to have sanctity, you would notice that the moment any child is born in this world, that a vampire comes around and bites them, infecting them with AIDS, the moment they're born. And that no one can complain, because we will say to them, hey, you can't prove that vampire biting your child with a Hep B vaccine actually caused any damage. And you can't prove that because the baby wasn't fucking alive 24 hours ago. But we have that system now, and we keep insisting, oh, it's so great. It's so great. It's so great. And so you're watching what has to unfold. You wouldn't want to be with these people anyway. You wouldn't. The ones of you who do are going to stay in the comfort for as long as you can, which is why it's so crucial that we have a system exactly like we do now. This system is crucial. And it's completely completely built on reality bubbles. That we are the carbonation inside the dome. We are the carbonated reality bubbles living as best we can, as comfortable as we can, while the pressure continues to rise. And you can check out anytime you like, as long as you take your sanctity. Now, I have to switch gears here, because I need you to know that disassociation is certainly fucked up, but it's also very powerful. I've been very busy in the 3D world, making
When he says what he's about to say, imagine transferring your consciousness into different robot bodies. That's what he's referring to.
puppets. I've got it worked out where basically my phone is a facial rig that's reading your face, but then it's UDP powered of animated avatar or whatever. I want to turn this into robotics and get it on Arduino, but that's a whole other story. I'm working on this for these movies, these little short movies, because it'd be cool if you could make different things talk. And if you plugged into this, you could just talk and then it would read your face and it would move that. As I'm playing with this, very technical stuff for me at least, I'm like profoundly blown away by the disassociation that occurs with puppeteering. That you will watch someone completely change their personality the moment they get behind a puppet. And I started to think about this, and I realized that this is actually an interesting form of disassociation, one that's not necessarily even psychopathic. Roller skates are disassociation. Hear me out. Water skiing is disassociation. Snowboarding is disassociation. Riding a bicycle is disassociation. When you start to snow ski, you trip on the end of your skis until you disassociate. Yeah, until you morph and discover where your new body is. It's fascinating. When you're wearing flippers and you've gone scuba diving, snorkeling, and you're trying to walk on the dock with the duck feet, you have to disassociate in order to correct yourself. When you play banjo, when you play guitar, when you play violin, you're disassociating. When you're driving a really cool car, you disassociate. You become the car. You start to feel, you install sensors into your thighs that are connected directly to the tire, that you're able to form a neural live map and do that in real time. When you make love to a woman, you disassociate as the two of you become one. As you hold a baby, you disassociate. When you walk a dog, you feel it on your leash. Do you see what I'm saying? That when the moment you're born, you're constantly disassociating and associating with all your cells. That you're growing taller. That babies walk awkwardly because they're constantly having to disassociate with their new size. It's happening so fast that they can't keep up. The process of disassociation has them in these other realms all the time, where they're constructing their matrix.
And we are collectively growing so fast we can't keep up, and we are having to disassociate with our former identity as humans on a spinning ball in the middle of nowhere to the new reality we're getting plugged into.
Building this reality matrix, and they're letting it expunge. You could say that the ego itself, when someone's ego bubble is burst, that their reality bubble is burst.
Ego crush is so severe. God, it's brutal out here. The recent iPhone commercial that used that song in their promo.
This association happens inside the body too. The moment you start to process information sensorily, you associate with it. That the eyes, if you watch my Eye of Ra presentation, you now know what I mean. That the eyes themselves, even if they don't work, that blind sight kicks in and you're able to associate with your surroundings, but you don't have a nice render gallery, Plato's cave, to draw them in. Instead, you have this sense, this hidden sense. Remember, blind sight works off pictures. You can read the emotions on a picture without having eyes. This association, dissociation, this is something that's built into us. I think that's what...
We are having new senses turned on like telepathy, and you are going to have to reassociate with your new senses.
What happens when we empathize? We associate.
That is what it means to develop external technology until we develop internal technology that allows us to do what we do on the internet through our internal technology known as telepathy. That's what Greg Braden was referring to when we redirect our attention from external technology to internal technology.
The reason why you were attracted to the other sex is because when you empathize, your adrenals...
And we have been going through a courtship and we're about to get married. We are at childhood's end, where as a child you say, ew, girls are gross. And as child species we say, ew, reptilians are gross. And we are at childhood's end during a courtship, and there is about to be a marriage, and it will be a star-spangled celebration, and I am with the father of the bride. That's your prelude to the next video.
Resonate their adrenals and the parts of you that are missing, in my case, a Stargate, for example.
And our species is going to be married to another species.
I now feel what it's like to have all of those parts together. I imagine sex, because me putting my part in her part is that perfect association. That we get off on that, we form families around that because of our copulation fetish we have with that union, with that reality bubble. Which shows you how many calories the reality bubble actually burns, doesn't it? It's showing you how constantly you're working on forging your reality. And right now, you're looking at people that are competing with their reality, and they're going to die, and they're never going to see your reality. You're never going to see theirs. You might see theirs, but it won't be your reality. And that you'll never know. That this world doesn't have anything that's known. It doesn't. That's why Zetetics is really the only option that you have, unless you want to start lying to yourself. Then you're going to create an objective reality. You're going to invent good and evil. Why? Because now you can say, well, certain behavior is just bad and I don't have to judge it because I can just call it evil. You can call junk mail bad. You can call spam evil.
You can call AI takeover of humanity evil and reptilians are evil.
You can dismiss whoever, whatever you want. Well, that's a narcissist, that's a psychopath, that's a sociopath, that's Luciferian. You can dismiss anyone you want. Gives you that reality bubble. So, good and evil is like the cage of a car. Provides you structure when you don't have to do it yourself. Allows you to have that structure. To get that structure, you have to adopt, you have to buy a car. You have to buy into that system. So the entire thing is still energy. The entire thing is still your reality bubble. What is a 7-year-old boy running around playing in the mud? Someone with a powerful reality bubble. It's raining outside.
As for that vehicle, I will say this, that you don't need to know the inner workings of a vehicle. All you need to do is be able to push the pedals and turn the wheel. And in that way, having your life experience is all you need to do. Just like you push the button on a computer and a lot of things happen in the background before something changes on the screen. You don't need to know all that stuff that goes on in the background. You only need to be able to push the buttons in order to watch the screen change. You don't need to know what happens under the hood of a car. You only need to be able to push the pedals and turn the wheel in order to use that vehicle to get you where you're going. So all of this is not even necessary to understand, only to be able to have your life experience and choose a personally relevant, personally meaningful set of underlying priorities and principles through which that you express through your standards of behavior to create a better world around you, and you'll get where you're looking to go.
He doesn't care. He doesn't feel it. Doesn't feel a thing. He's too involved in this pine cone as the Death Star. It engulfs him so much, other kids fall into his reality bubble, and they start to play it too. What is a corporation? What is a government? It's the same thing. What is employment? You get up and you go to your job because that reality bubble affords you the framing, much like a car, gives you that structure.
And where we're going, there are no employees. There are no shipmates, only captains of their own ship. We don't need shipmates or employees where we're going. We must be the authors of our own authority and accept full responsibility for the decisions we make and the effects that those decisions we make have on the people around us. That is the obligation of a king. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. If you want to still be a slave, be a slave. But there are slaves and prisoners, and we now have the opportunity to become master.
That you can attach a chassis to. You don't want to build your own chassis. It's too hard, you tell yourself. You can get one from here, and all you need to do is put gas in it, and they'll give you gas. All you got to do is worship their reality bubble every day. You can pretend to worship it, but really all you're doing is just severing yourself, because you're still there, because your time, your presence is worship. In the future, I'm talking about the evolutionary psychological future, there are no jobs, which is why when you look back in history, you see that we don't always advance. The vampires came to Amuraka and knocked out a civilization so perfect that they didn't need defense. They didn't. They didn't want to live in a world with pockets. Native Americans didn't want to live in a world of vaccines or variolation. You can say, well, they died because they're weak. No, they died because they had fucking sanctity. You lived because you have psychopathy. That's truly the truth. It's really what's happening. The most powerful things in the garden are vulnerable. It's part of what makes them so powerful. Those tomatoes, everybody wants those tomatoes. The rabbits want them. The skunks want them. The deers want them. Everyone wants them. You want them. And they stick out like a sore thumb. They're bright red. They're juicy. They're shiny. It's the antithesis of defense. What is a baby? A baby is it's not even walking. A baby is a loud, noise-making vulnerability. You start to realize that protection in life is part of that psychic bubble. It's the psychic bubble that requires you to believe that your entire existence, your entire understanding is only here, and that consciousness itself is the entire universe. And the moment your consciousness dies, it's over. And there's nothing wrong with thinking that way. It puts a little bit of pressure on you. It's part of the greenhouse. It's part of the vitriol. It's why when you're born, you're instantly shown death. Right away. Because that's part of what this system needs to have. We've candy-coated death. We've created all kinds of weird things now. We have insurance. We have death insurance. We have fucking life insurance right now. That's how insane we are. But it's working. And it's getting there. I'm going to sign off now. You guys have a great day. Let me know what you thought in the comments. And hope to have a show for you on Friday. We'll see. I'm going to get back to work on this thing now. But yeah, thanks for being here. And I hope you've enjoyed this tiny cucumber from my garden to yours. There you go.